It's time for pocket cheese. I'm not a ghost hunter. I don't own a spirit box. I've never spent a single night in a graveyard. For most of my life, if you ask me if ghosts were real, my default answer was a firm no. My scientific mind was perfectly satisfied believing every strange creak, every odd reflection, and every cold snap was just a mundane physical event waiting for an explanation. And then I went to the Stanley Hotel. It's nestled high in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, 7,500 feet above the living world. I was visiting a friend and they suggested it. We decided to do a historical tour, not even a ghost tour, because I was genuinely fascinated by the architecture of the place. It is grand, beautiful, and completely oppressive. I walked in knowing the history. Everyone knows the history. This is the place that gave Stephen King the idea for The Shining. F.O. Stanley, the hotel's builder and namesake, and his wife Flora are widely believed to have never checked out. But I knew all that. I didn't care. But as soon as I crossed the threshold, the facts of my reality started to feel incorrect. This was years ago, long before the age of super pocket computers, back when everyone still carried a separate digital camera alongside their cell phone. I had fresh batteries in my Canon and a full charge on my phone. The tour felt completely normal, right up until we entered the billiards room. Our guide was explaining that F.O. Stanley had built the space specifically for himself and was known to have been a highly meticulous man, demanding absolute perfection in his craftsmanship. The room has a specific aura, and while I was listening, my eyes were drawn to one of the massive antique mirrors mounted behind the guide. In that mirror, I saw it. It was a shadow. It was a massive, brilliant flash of light. It had a physical quality to it, like a camera strobe, but completely silent. I immediately snapped my head around, trying to find the source. I logicalized it instantly. It had to be a reflection from a car. There was a window to my left, and I assumed the mirror had caught the glint of a passing vehicle. But when the presentation ended, I walked over to that window, simply to satisfy my theory. My heart plummeted. There was no road. The window didn't look out onto traffic. It looked out onto a closed courtyard. Total, unmoving silence. Nothing I could fathom in that yard could have created that reflection. My scientific brain was a little confused, and we were only 15 minutes into the tour. My scientific mind was turning its wheels, and we were only 15 minutes into the tour. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself that it was just a psychological phenomenon, a trick of the mind in a highly suggested environment. But the next strange event made that harder. Later, the tour entered the grand ballroom, where Flora Stanley is still famously heard playing the piano at night. I pulled out my digital camera, wanting to take a high-quality picture of the space. I pressed the power button. Nothing. I pressed it again, harder this time. The device was completely and undeniably dead. The screen was a black, unfeeling void, but the batteries were brand new. I'd just put them in that morning. A knot started to form in my stomach. Was I being so targeted that a ghost would actively drain my device? I logicized again. No. I'd probably forgotten to turn it off after sightseeing earlier. It was a stupid human error. And to prove my own point, I pulled out my cell phone to take a different picture, fully expecting to see my full battery bar. And it was red, nearly completely drained. A factual detail I've always found compelling is that researchers studying extreme electromagnetic anomalies often find that those fields can physically interact with the electrochemical process in batteries, forcing rapid and inexplicable discharge. It felt like that field was wrapped around me. But the final experience is the one I can't explain. We were taken to the top floor of the hotel where the servants and the children lived in a long, narrow hallway. The energy up there is thin. We weren't allowed to enter any of the rooms, so the entire group was standing quietly in the claustrophobic hallway, listening to the guide describe the lives of the workers. I was standing there, listening, when a hand came out of the silence and rested firmly on my shoulder. I want to be perfectly clear about the sensation. This was not a friendly tap. It was not a casual brush. It was the weight and distinct pressure of an entire hand, complete with individual fingers. It was so solid, so complete, that I instantly knew it was my friend leaning on me. Without even turning, I made some bad joke, something like, "You tired already? Your battery rang out too?" And there was no answer, just the guide's voice. And I turned around, expecting to see my friend smirking. No one was there. Behind me was total empty darkness, leading toward the far staircase. There was not a single person standing anywhere close enough to have touched me and moved away before I could turn. And even if they had, the corridor is so quiet that I would have heard their clothes rustle. I would have felt the displacement of air. I was completely alone. By the time the tour ended, I wasn't claiming I'd seen a ghost. And to this day, I still don't know for certain if I can claim that. But I went into that hotel believing every paranormal claim was a fabrication or a misrepresentation. I went in satisfied with my own facts. I walked out feeling that my internal set of facts about the universe was incomplete. Maybe the light was natural. Maybe the simultaneous battery failure was a coincidence I just don't understand. Maybe my own mind, stressed by the suggested environment, hallucinated a complete and perfect physical sensation on my shoulder. Or maybe there are things in this world we simply don't have an explanation for yet. All I know for certain is that I entered that building as a total skeptic, and I left knowing that something had acknowledged my existence. And that just maybe something is waiting for me to return. Thanks for sitting in the dark with me tonight. If you enjoyed this Professor Broke reading, you can find more on YouTube and TikTok under the same name, BrokeBreaksBooks. If you'd like to share your story with the B3 community, shoot it over to BrokeBreaksBooks@gmail.com. Hit that like and subscribe button to become a B3 Cube. Oh, and remember, Stephen King titled The Shining after a 1970 John Lennon song, Instant Karma, in which Lennon states, "We all shine on."